I used to think manipulation was something that happened in movies, the kind of twisted deceit reserved for thrillers or crime dramas. But then I met her, and over time I realized that some people don't just lie to survive, they live by it. They breathe it. They build an entire life around it. Her name was Elise. She was one of those women you couldn't quite read, and maybe that was her magic or her weapon. At first glance, she looked ordinary, the kind of girl you pass by at a cafe without a second thought. But beneath that harmless smile was a storm, cold, strategic, and entirely self-serving. Elise was the kind of person who could make you feel seen and invisible all at once. I met her through mutual friends at a small dinner party. She talked about art and travel, about how she used to work as a consultant for a luxury brand. She had the right words, the right tone, the right charm. But what struck me wasn't what she said, it was how she said it. She spoke with the ease of someone who had learned long ago that words could buy her things she could never earn. Over time, I noticed something strange. She never talked about her job or where she worked now. When someone asked, she would laugh it off with a casual, "I'm between things," or "I freelance when I need to." It sounded innocent, even relatable. But as months passed, it became clear she hadn't worked in years. Instead, she lived off people. Not in the obvious way, not like a freeloader sleeping on couches. Her methods were quiet, invisible, and calculated. She had perfected the art of manipulation. She had a pattern, a formula, even. Whenever her funds ran low, she'd find a new target. Usually older men or young military recruits, men naive enough to believe her charm was affection. She'd listen to them, study them, find their weaknesses, and then build a story around what they wanted to hear. Elise was a master of identity. She could reinvent herself overnight. One week she was a struggling artist with a painful past, and the next she was a misunderstood entrepreneur who had been taken advantage of by men who didn't appreciate her. She knew how to make every conversation about sympathy, about making people feel guilty for having what she didn't. But she didn't just stop there. Elise didn't just manipulate emotions, she manufactured entire realities. She'd create fake text messages, false identities, even imaginary people, characters she'd bring to life to validate her lies. I once watched her craft an entire online persona, a best friend, who supposedly witnessed her being cheated on. She'd message herself from that fake account, then show screenshots to the man she was currently with, using it as evidence of her pain. And when he felt guilty enough, when his heart cracked open with pity, she'd strike, not with rage, but with fragility. She'd cry softly, say she was struggling, that she couldn't pay her rent, that she just needed a little help. And they always helped. They always paid. Because Elise didn't ask like a thief, she asked like a victim. I saw her do it to 4 different men in less than a year. Each one left her drained, confused, and guilty, while she walked away richer and colder. The worst part was how easily she could justify it. "It's not stealing," she once told me. "They get what they want, I get what I need." It was her version of morality, transactional and twisted. There was one story I'll never forget. She met a married man, a first-year military officer. Young, proud, loyal, at least at first. Elise noticed the ring but pretended not to. She began with innocent texts, a few jokes, a late-night message about how she couldn't sleep. Within weeks, he was hooked. She staged an entire drama around that relationship. She pretended to be a woman named Clara, an imaginary girlfriend of another officer, and used that identity to send screenshots, fake accusations, and stories designed to make him feel cornered. She told him his wife was unfaithful, that his marriage was already doomed, that he deserved better. She'd send herself threatening messages as Clara just to make him feel protective over her. It was psychological warfare disguised as romance. And when he finally broke, when he admitted to sleeping with her, she used it as leverage. She demanded money for her emotional trauma. He paid, and then she disappeared. A few months later, I saw her again. She looked radiant, almost glowing, as if nothing had ever happened. She was drinking champagne, laughing, and talking about how she might move to Florida for a change of scene. That's when I realized Elise didn't just manipulate people for money. She manipulated life itself. Every relationship was a performance, every lie a scene, every person a prop in her personal theater of survival. But underneath that glamour, there was something hollow, something broken. I caught glimpses of it sometimes, usually late at night when she'd had too much to drink. Her voice would tremble when she mentioned her mother, a woman who, apparently, never wanted her. She once whispered that she used to pretend to faint as a child, just so her mother would hold her. Maybe that's where it all started. Maybe all those manipulations were just her way of making the world hold her, even if it was through guilt or fear. Still, I couldn't stay around her forever. There's something corrosive about being near people who drain others. You start to lose your sense of truth. You start to question your own morality. The last time I saw Elise, she was sitting alone at a cafe, scrolling through her phone. Her face was blank, no makeup, no smile, no disguise. For the first time, she looked tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that comes from years of pretending. She didn't see me, but I stood there for a while, watching her. I wondered if she ever thought about the people she hurt, the men who loved her, the lies she spun, the trust she destroyed. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. All I know is that some people spend their lives working, and others spend their lives pretending to. Elise was one of the latter, a professional illusionist in a world that rewards manipulation as long as it looks like charm. I walked away that day with a strange mix of pity and relief. Pity, because she'd never know what real love or stability felt like. Relief, because I was finally free of her web. But sometimes, when I meet someone new who seems too charming, too self-assured, I feel a quiet chill crawl up my spine, because I've seen what lies beneath that kind of perfection. And it's not beauty, it's hunger. A hunger for validation, for control, for survival, no matter the cost. And that's what Elise truly was, a survivor, but not in the way we admire. She survived by feeding on others emotionally, financially, spiritually. And one day, I believe she'll wake up alone, surrounded by all the wealth she gathered, and realize that for all her manipulation, she never actually lived. Because when you build your life on lies, there's no one left to tell the truth about you when you're gone. Only silence. And maybe, for someone like Elise, that's the final punishment, the silence of a world that no longer believes a word you say.